All right, it is time now for some NFL Chaser Fade. We got a fresh new panel with that fresh new panel smell.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Well, you're sitting right next to me. I can smell you. Steve Buchanan in studio, Reid Fowler there in the middle, Geoff Ulrich over on the left. So guys, agree or disagree with the following statements, please. We're going to start here. Chaser Fade. Steve, I'll let you go first. We'll see a performance this week that will change the outcome of an award.
Yeah, when you look at the comeback player of the year, Dak Prescott is currently minus 140. Joe Burrow is in second at plus 110. I don't understand how Burrow is not leading in this category here. Like, look, it's a great story for both guys that they came back this year, do what they do after the, horrific injuries to both of these guys. But let's be honest here, especially in the second half of the season, Joe Burrow has vastly overperformed Dak Prescott offensively, especially in the last 2 weeks here. They have a cake matchup against the Browns coming up. The Bengals do have something to play for in this game as well. They do have an outside chance of getting the number one seed. A lot of things have to happen. I totally get that, but at least the Bengals have some motivation in this game. I think Joe Burrow ends up being the favorite and comeback player of the year.
Geoff, talk to me. What about you? You believe something can change? A race could change MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year, any of these things?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, the Offensive Player of the Year is the one I think everyone's going to be keeping an eye on. It's basically a pick 'em right now in the DraftKings Sportsbook, both Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp at minus 110. And Steve's right. I think that comeback player of the year could see some movement, but I don't it won't really be based on the games because I don't know how much either player is going to play. It might just be sentiment. People finally realizing Joe Burrow is a good, has had a huge comeback. I think you're going to see a lot of movement in this Offensive Player of the Year just based off of performances. You've got Cooper Kupp going up against a weaker San Francisco secondary, and then Jonathan Taylor playing the Jags. Sorry, Emerson, as a 15-point favorite. One of these guys is going to have a massive day. It just definitely feels like it. And I'd kind of side with Kupp. I think people will eventually, think that the Taylor matchup will produce, because it's a softer matchup, will produce bigger numbers. But I mean, Kupp is involved in what's going to be a close spot game, most likely. It's a 4-point spread against a weak San Francisco secondary. I think you'll see some serious movement in the odds on this one just based off this one game because much like I said with Ja'Marr Chase, it's what have you done for me lately with these awards? And if Kupp ends up breaking the record and Taylor just has maybe gets in the end zone once and has 90 yards, I think it'll lean towards Kupp. So I'm looking for the most movement in this Offensive Player of the Year one.
All right, Reid, you expect a performance this weekend, final weekend of the regular season that could change the outcome of an award?
Yeah, these two guys laid it out pretty nicely on the ones that are, arguably up in the air, right? We're not up in the air, but have the best chance of moving from favorite to the first underdog. But when you take a look at I think the Offensive Rookie of the Year, right? That's going to go basically to Ja'Marr Chase because of that game last week. But having said that, right, Mac Jones, I'm surprised Geoff didn't go shell one out for his boy Mac Jones that he's been talking up this entire year. And he potentially has now at plus odds. So there's some line shift. I don't think that happens. These guys, I mean, the one with Ja'Marr Chase too, right? They have something to play for. They have like Steve mentioned, Cincinnati has something to play for, not just from a playoff perspective, but Joe Burrow wants to get Ja'Marr Chase that award. So I think it's going to go to Ja'Marr Chase specifically in that one, but every other one is pretty much locked up.
All right, let's poke over to DFS here. Geoff, chase or fade for me. A player priced under $4,000 will score more than 25 DK fantasy points. We had 4 that went that direction. Over 20 last week. 1 over 25, Braxton Berrios of the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's week 18, so I'm going to have to chase this. I mean, it is the week where, dudes just, who maybe you just didn't even realize were still on the team. They tend to step up and get some serious snaps. And I mean, trying to predict this is where the hard part is. I mean, me saying that it's going to happen is the easy part. Where it's going to exactly happen, hard for me to tell you. I'm going to throw out a name, Equanimeous St. Brown of the Green Bay Packers. He's a pretty talented guy. He's going to be out there, in a game versus the Detroit Lions. And he's probably going to get a lot of second half snaps. This one is purely just boom or bust. I mean, he may not even get that many looks if this game ends up being kind of a dud or just they run the ball a lot. But he's going to be out there against the weak secondary. I mean, like I said, he's probably going to get a lot of routes in the second half of this game. There's players like that. There's numerous players littered around the NFL that you could look to this week. But I will definitely chase that somebody goes over 25 DK fantasy points because almost every single game on the slate is going to have an Equanimeous St. Brown that's going to have just extra snaps in the second half. So yeah, I'll chase this.
Yeah, Reid, it's true, because then there are other guys too playing for like roster incentives. There's guys playing for a contract or maybe to get on a team's radar for next year.
Yeah, incentives were a big narrative last week, and some of them didn't work out.
Oh, yeah, he ripped his clothes off, started stripping in the end zone, Steve.
No, but leave it to Ulrich to say, easy part is to answer, the hard part is to choose which one. That's what we're doing here, Geoff. You have to choose a player, not just say it's tough. But yeah, Equanimeous St. Brown. If Jordan Love is out there, I don't really like that at all.
Right.
Jordan Love did not look good one bit. The guy that I'm going with is Jakeem Grant. He's, going against Minnesota at $3,600. Look, when he was healthy, he was a guy that was probably the best player not named David Montgomery on that field on offense. That's the only thing that was happening for Chicago. He hasn't had a game over, or he hasn't even, come close to this. But he gets a Vikings defense who's given up the most points to opposing wide receivers. Grant's got 2 touchdowns in the last 4 games. He didn't do anything last week. He hardly got any snaps last week. So to Jeff's point, these are dart throws, but I'm going to chase this as well because Jakeem Grant could also get it done, on special teams as well. So give me Grant for this one.
Typical Reid, besmirching Jordan Love's name and then picking a guy who's attached to Andy Dalton at quarterback.
But you can just hand the ball off to Jakeem Grant.
Yep.
Kind of awkward because I was going to go with somebody from the Bears too, so it's kind of weird. But the perception is that if Justin Fields is healthy, which is trending that way, he's going to be starting this game. That's already been announced. Pretty sure Matt Nagy also was relieved of his duties. He will not be coming back, so what does he have to lose at this point? But you look at somebody like Marquise Goodwin, who can do that. We've seen him do it before. He has 7 targets of 20 yards or more this season. If someone can snap one off and go downfield in an instant, it's definitely this guy here. So again, it's a total dart throw. You look at the selection that we have here of 4K and below, makes me want to throw up that one of these guys is going to go over 25 DraftKings fantasy points, but we'll have a little fun here. If anybody has the capability of do that, all these guys have laid out somebody, add Goodwin to the mix as well.
All right, this is an interesting one here, guys. We're going to chase or fade that a player will break an all-time NFL record because of this 18th game this week. So you have TJ Watt, who's really close to the sacks record there. He's just one off of it. Kupp needs 11 catches to tie the record, 135 yards to tie the receiving yards record. Brady's close to the completions record. Steve, what do you think here? You think one of these guys can do it?
Yeah, I think Watt's probably in the best position to do that. Whoever is starting for the Ravens, at this point, that offensive line has just been absolutely terrible for them this season. If it is Lamar Jackson, let's just say, he's been under pressure on 37% of his dropbacks, 52.7% completion rate in that scenario, only 7.1 yards per attempt. He's really struggled under pressure. And if he's playing in this game, how healthy is that ankle going to be? So there's that factor too as well. So I think this is a good spot for TJ Watt to break that record.
It's cool. There's some, if you go to the NFL section of the DK Sportsbook as well and click on DK Promotions, you can bet TJ Watt to record at least 1.5 sacks, which would obviously break the record here, Geoff. Yes is -130.
I almost think all these records could be broken that we mentioned. The Kupp, the TJ Watt, and the Brady one. Brady needs 16 completions or something
15
to tie. It's not many to beat the record. And then you've got TJ Watt. This just goes to another point. My favorite spot on the entire betting board this week is just take the Pittsburgh Steelers money line. Why are the Baltimore Ravens getting any respect in the odds at this point in the year? They are banged up in every single facet of the game. They were never really that good to begin with. Now you've got the Steelers still in the playoff hunt. With this TJ Watt thing going on, he's going to be absolutely, just pumped. The whole defensive unit is going to be pumped to get this. And you've got potentially the Ravens busting out an injured Lamar Jackson to play in this game. There's so many factors here that lead to me liking Pittsburgh on the money line. And I do think TJ Watt gets there. And I also think Cooper Kupp gets there, since we're going to talk about all these records. It's going to be a close game. San Francisco does not have a good secondary. 11 catches, that's just another day at the office for Cooper Kupp. I think all these records might fall, if I'm being dead honest.
Hey, Geoff, real quick. I don't know if you know this, but the Steelers stink too. So there is that. That's why this is probably so close. And
we just had the odds there up on the screen. So Cooper Kupp over 11.5 receptions, which would break the record. That's plus 400 for yes. And then to record over 135.5 receiving yards, Yes is plus 190.
It sounds to me like Buchanan has put all his money on the Baltimore Ravens.
No, you know
That's
what
it sounds like to me. I don't know. I'm just saying.
You know what it is? Jeff got caught up in the emotion. He's like, oh, the Steelers are good again. Look at Big Ben. He did such a great job at home. They stink, Jeff. That's why the odds are what they are.
Hey, Reid, Kupp had 11 grabs for 122 yards. Hey, buddy. 11 grabs for 122 yards earlier this
weird
season.
Camera angle.
No, I kind of like it. It's something a little different.
No, it's a little sorority angle. I like that. I think look, I don't like doing this very often. I'm going to agree with Jeff. I think.
Here we go.
Wow. I think all 3 of these are definitely in play. I love the TJ Watt call that Steve laid out. Look, if Baltimore is worse in adjusted sack rate, and Pittsburgh is 3rd in defensive sack rate, right? And TJ Watt's the best guy. He needs 1.5 to get that. He had his second best game against the Ravens in Week 13, where he got 3.5 sacks. It was a slog fest. It was raining, and Lamar Jackson was just running all over the yard. But because the offensive line is god awful, Brady needs 15 or 16 completions. He's averaging 23 against Carolina in his career, right? I think he also needs 46 attempts to break both completions and attempts record. And we've seen that time and time again from Brady and the Buccaneers this season. And Kupp, he went for 11, like you mentioned, Emerson. San Francisco, 18th in pass DVOA. It can definitely get done. So I'm going to chase all 3. Why not?
All right, let's do this. Chase your fave. We're going to have an underdog of more than 7 points win outright that will shake up the playoff seeding, Jeff.
Oh,
Don't do it.
Come on.
Don't do it. This is a tailor-made question for Emerson.
Yep, we all know. Dude, we all are on the same page with this, right? We all want it to happen. We all want the Jags to upset the Colts.
We do.
And then it forces the Chargers and the Raiders just to agree and have a handshake on a tie so they both make the postseason Sunday night. Could be the most exciting Sunday night football game in the history of mankind.
I mean, I'm fading this just because it's the NFL and it's like the highest variance league in all of leagues in the world, and it just tells us like one of these underdogs is going to come out here and win. I mean, and the 49ers aren't even underdogs, or are the underdogs, I should say. So the Rams are actually the favorites in that game. I do think that one of these teams ends up losing. I'm going to go with the Chargers actually blowing it. I just feel like that's a team where you look at the Chargers' history. This is just classic Chargers. I mean, they get themselves in a good spot. Everyone expects them to win, and then they end up losing to Reid's Raiders. So I'll make Reid happy. I'm going to say the Chargers are the team that lets us down here. I actually think the 49ers will prevail. I'm not going to take the Jags because it's just a bridge too far. But I'm going to say the Chargers let us down here.
Coward. Go ahead, Steve.
Right? I mean, I do want the Jaguars to win. Are they going to win? Probably not. But it would be fun. I will say, if there's an underdog that I think can win this week, how about the Seahawks against the Cardinals? What have the Cardinals done over the past month or so that makes you think that they can win any game at this point, right? They've looked absolutely atrocious. And the Seahawks finally had a good game last week. Maybe that's me being a dope and just going after them because they had a good game last week. But I think the Seahawks are a team that can beat the Cardinals to this point. I don't like the Cardinals.
Cardinals just beat the Cowboys, though.
I don't care.
Okay.
Was that a convincing win by the Cardinals?
They
had nobody and they won.
And they beat the Cowboys. It convinced me because it says it's a win.
Well,
that's a win.
You have a lot to learn. You have a lot to learn.
I certainly do.
Best
What,
bet
are you
on
my
Sunday
wife?
Hit. The Cardinals won outright, so I do like that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Steve is right. Steve read this question correctly, right? Of more than 7 points. Jeff obviously didn't, but Jeff got slandered by Emerson, pre-tape because he didn't send in a certain gift in time. But having said that, look, I'm going to fade this. None of these teams, of 7 points are going to affect it. I agree with Steve that Cardinals game, Seahawks, whatever. But like Russell Wilson is a dope. We know that this season he's just not it. He's a great quarterback, but just this season it's not happening. I would argue that Houston and Tennessee, that one is interesting, but it's not it's not going to happen. The thing about Jacksonville though, they haven't won. Like a home team has won in 8 straight matchups in this one, and Indy hasn't won in Jacksonville since 2014. So
Great stat. Stat.
That is, it's fantastic. It's true. That's what I'm saying. It's a weird rivalry in the AFC South.